How I made $360,353.63 during my first year in real estate. Let me get started with some of the real information here. So I'm going to cover three things today. I'm going to cover the breakdown of my first year in real estate and the deals that I did, how much they were worth, how I did this part-time and how you can do the same. I'll give you some steps on how to go from just solo job towards more of a business with a team. So how did we do this? These are all wholesale deals, meaning these are properties that I had under contract and we partnered with somebody else, a fix and flipper, who actually took down the end deal, except for one that was a fix and flip, and I'll get to that one in just a minute. This is the breakdown, and right off the bat, I'm gonna tell you that I lied to you a little bit because this isn't my first year, it's actually 14 months if you count from November 2021 to December 2022. And there's a reason why I included those last 2 months in here, and I'll explain that in just a minute. How do we do this? How do we find all these deals? Well, we're only outbound marketing at this moment. So we're only doing calling and texting to leads. We're reaching out to people to see if they would like to sell their house to us. So that's outbound. We've only got one prospecting agent in the beginning, then we went to two, and we have one acquisition manager, and that's me. And I want to break one of the myths that you need a giant team to do, a relatively decent sized business. You really don't. You can do this with a pretty small team, like you and one prospecting agent or virtual assistant. It's really all you need to do a business in the $300, $400, maybe $500,000 mark each year. So this is what our call breakdown looks like. So I just pulled all of our data from the first year, and we made 502,039 calls in that time. Not all of these connected, not all of these are even real numbers. It's just these are all of the dials that we made. This includes people that picked up, people that didn't pick up, bad phone numbers, all types of different things. So from all of these calls, we got 4,868 contacts. So that's about 1%. From that amount, we got 750 leads. And this is actually approximate because I didn't do a great job of tracking leads in the very beginning, but I did the second half of the year, meaning that about 15% of all the contacts that we made became leads. People who said that they wanted to sell for one reason or another. From that 750 leads, we got 13 deals. It's about 2%, meaning that 1 out of every 57 leads becomes a deal, okay? I want to stress the importance of tracking all of these numbers, right? These are KPIs, your key performance indicators, because this is how you know if you're winning. The more that you do, you understand how many contact leads it takes to get a deal, and then you can start to say, okay, well, one virtual assistant can generate this many contacts or this many leads each week, and then you know all of a sudden how many deals you're going to be doing each week, right? That's a way to make your business a little more predictable as you move forward. Track all of the numbers. Another really important thing is, how do you define leads? It's really anybody that says, hey, I want to sell my house when we call. And some people define it in more of a tight way. It's somebody who has a timeline less than 30 days, and they have some kind of motivation, like they're going through a divorce or they inherited the property or something like that. But at least in the beginning of my business, we were super loose, and it was anybody that said on the phone, we want to sell. What do you not see here? You see it starting in November 2021. Okay, is this when I started and I just made $45,000 right off the bat? No. So I really started in April and started calling fairly intensely just on my own. I didn't have any virtual assistants. I managed the data myself. I did all the calling myself. And it took all of that time to build up the momentum to get to my first deal. But then you can see from November, we started having pretty consistent deal flow from that point. So it takes time to build up this momentum. This is why I included 14 months instead of just 12. And I wanted to explain that there is risk in this business. So at month 14, I did a fix and flip. I actually bought one of the houses that I had found and decided to do the work myself with a contractor, flip it, sell it on the market, whatever. The numbers all added up. And what happened during that time is rates completely changed. It went from like a 4% average to like a 7% average in the 2 or 3 months that it took us to do this flip. And you can see I lost $21,000, $647.37. That hurts when you're losing that much money. So there is risk in this business, no matter what anybody tells you, and running your numbers accurately is super important. I learned from this is there are some really important factors in houses that you can't always see in the numbers, right? You always look at square footage, you always look at bedroom and bathroom count. The layout is the most important thing, and in my opinion, that's actually what got me into trouble on this property, is I didn't understand what the layout looked like. I bought it without having ever seen it. I just saw some photos, so I assumed it was fine. I actually visited the property in Colorado a few months later and realized, oh my God, the layout is horrible. The bedrooms are tiny. A lot of times the kitchen won't be great. Like, that's a big deal for buyers in the market right now. Make sure that the layout makes sense for the audience that you are trying to sell to. We're past the breakdown, and I want to get into how to work this part-time, meaning you have a full-time job and you're trying to get into this just in the odd hours that you have free. And I call this the solo phase. And you might not think of it this way, but you have high time and low money, or at least you have time that you're willing to spend, and generally money you're not as willing to spend. I recommend that you commit to at least 15 hours per week on top of your job, your life, everything else that you do. 15 hours a week just towards real estate. And this is kind of the rough breakdown that I think is effective. So I would spend 10 hours calling new prospects, cold calling. I would spend about 4 hours following up with prospects who have said that they're interested in selling. And I would spend about 1 hour comping properties. You'll need a little extra time to manage data, plug in properties, give phone numbers, just all that general admin stuff that comes with this type of work. Money is in the follow-up here. And that's why there's so much time spent following up. So calling new prospects can be exciting because each time you talk to somebody new, oh, maybe this is gonna be a deal, maybe this is gonna be a deal. But the truth is, it takes the average seller at least 3 to 6 months after you've contacted them to actually close the deal. So following up is super, super important, touching base with this person and making sure that when they are ready to sell, that you're the first person on the top of their mind and they call you back, or you get in touch with them at the perfect time and they go, oh my God, James, I was just thinking about selling my house. Thank God that you called, right? People spend way too much time comping properties. It's just in human nature. You call somebody, they say, yeah, you know, I'd be willing to sell for the right price. First thing is you hop on Zillow and you do a bunch of research and you spend a couple of hours dialing in the price that you can offer, and you can offer them $300,000 and they want $500,000 and they have no reason to sell and they have no timeline and they'll just hold it forever if they don't get $500,000, okay? Comping is really important, but comping at the right time is important. And realizing when you have somebody who's actually a motivated seller versus somebody who's just a tire kicker will change how you spend your time and make sure that you spend it most effectively. But wait, James, I work 40 hours already. I know, right? We all do. We all work 40 hours or maybe more. And you might think that squeezing another 15 hours of work in just isn't possible. But find the time because it's worth it. It really is. It's spending an extra 15 hours now so that in the future, maybe you only have to work 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week. You can spend more time with your family, right? You can live the life that you want to live. It's worth the hard work now. Most people pick up between 4 and 7 p.m. when they're just getting off work. That's also when you're off work, and use those last 2 or 3 hours of the day to make calls and reach out to people ready to talk about the property that they have to sell. I also find that Saturdays can be very effective. Same thing for Sundays, but personally, I like to take at least one day just off for myself to spend with my fiance or whatever. The point is, make it fit your schedule, right? Can you call at lunch? Can you call in between meetings? Can you call after work? Just find the way to make it work rather than telling yourself that there's no way to make it work. And then these are the tools that I used during the first year to get these 13 deals done. I use a dialer and a CRM. It's actually the same thing. It's all in Mojo, and I still use it to this day. Not as a dialer anymore, but I still use it as a CRM because I think it's simple and effective. I pull data. I now use PropWire. Awesome tool, completely free. You can pull data from here. And then once you have that data, you can skip trace it in either batch skip or lead Sherpa. And then for comping properties, I just use Zillow. It's completely free and it's really powerful to figure out what the property you're looking at is worth at the end of the day. You can do all of this for free, right? You don't need a dialer, you don't need a CRM. You can find free data, all that stuff. Don't do it that way. I can tell you from experience, I managed all of this with just my cell phone and an Excel spreadsheet for the first few months. You're really not doing yourself any favors. You feel like you're saving some money, but the truth is that by adding a dialer and a CRM and bulk data, you are pouring rocket fuel on the work that you're doing, and you can have all of these tools for literally under like $200 a month. Just take my word for it. It is 100% worth your time to spend the $200, get these tools, and it will get you to your first deal much faster. And when you cash that $40,000 check, you're not going to care about the $200 a month that you spent for a few months to get to that first deal. How do you transition from a job towards a business, right? And there's a gray area. It's both a job and a business for a long time. This is how you start to hire a team and systemize some of these things that you've been doing this whole time. So your very first hire needs to be a prospector. And we call this a caller or a VA, which stands for virtual assistant. So these are people a lot of times in other countries that work remote jobs and they do all kinds of great stuff. There's really solid candidates out there that can do all kinds of different things. And calling is definitely one of those things. I would plan to spend something like $5 to $7 an hour on a solid virtual assistant. And that person should be making somewhere between like 5,000 and 7,000 calls a week, which is gonna generate you something like 10 to 15 leads a week. And if you have somebody who's really good and you're good at training them, you can also have them start to manage your data, which is gonna take some of these admin tasks off of your plate, which means you can spend more time following up and just getting deals done rather than sorting through spreadsheets and managing data. This is great because you start to use leverage, right? And the idea of leverage is the ratio of how much work you're putting in to how much result you're getting out. And as you start to have more people that you have doing tasks for you that create an outsized result, you're using leverage. The more people that you can hire, the bigger results you can get, and you can start to raise the ceiling on how much money you can actually earn. These are a couple of hiring sites that I use to find virtual assistants. I found most of my team here on Upwork, but there's also one called WiseHire, and this can also be great to find other roles for your team, like sales managers, acquisitions managers, and all of that. So there's lots of sites like this, but I definitely recommend Upwork and WiseHire. So you've got your first team member. What's your responsibility? You are still doing the same thing. You're still prospecting, you're still doing cold calls, you're still honing your skills, but you're gonna shift a little bit more from cold calling, a little bit more towards follow-up. And the reason for that is your team is now generating some appointments for you, meaning that there's just more people for you to follow up with. And let's remember, money is in the follow-up, right? So you're gonna spend more time connecting with people, building relationships, calling the same people back each week, and just making sure that you are on top of their minds when they're ready to sell. And last, and maybe most important, is training your team. The amount of time that you invest into them will directly relate to the value that you get out of these folks. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of setting their VAs on a set it and forget it type of timeline. These are people, right? They need to be trained just like you and me. And for me, my entire team that I started with is still with me, right? I make a point to try to hire someone and keep them with me so that they know they have some stability and some security, and I can train that person up, and your investment starts to multiply over time as they become more skilled. Now they can start training your new team members and you spend less time doing that, right? So I love developing people on my team. I love being able to give them more responsibility and just slowly upgrading them as you start to grow your business, okay? I'm also gonna include a video link for my first deal. I made this video a little while back that explained everything that I did to get to just my first deal. And I get a little more detailed in how many calls I made just for that one deal, how I worked that deal, all the tools that I used. So if you'd like to see that video, go ahead and click the link in the description. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm planning to make a lot more videos like this, so I want to cover the content that you are curious about. But please, it helps me so much if you're willing to like, follow, and leave comments on YouTube and Instagram. I personally just love reading them, and I'm happy to respond to whatever questions or thoughts that you have. And you can follow me on both YouTube and Instagram at Hellerman Industries, okay? It's the same handle on both sites. So again, thank you so much. More videos on the way, and I'll talk to you next time.